right. We got a question here. From Pon Sunil S. If I change the meta tag of my post, will it rank again? The meta tags in blog posts aren't doing almost anything. Not today. They once upon a time did, but they just don't do almost anything in the Google search algorithm. So changing the meta tags aren't going to do much of anything for you. So there you go. Mark Norman asks, missed it. What drives you going forward? You know what drives me? Same thing that's driven me all along. A lot of things, actually. So I love business in general, but over the last 6.5 years, I've gotten really passionate about this business. I've been able to work with a lot of people. I've helped a lot of you, even individually on websites, and in Project 24. It's just been the coolest business to be a part of. And so while Jim is no longer a part of the company, Jim actually moved about 7 months ago. He and his family decided that they needed, for family reasons, they needed to make a move. And so he hasn't been here in the office, and yet we've been driven and moving forward that whole time. So really, we just have a fantastic team. I love working with those people, every single person that's a part of this. And so I actually am very, very driven, as much so, if not more than ever. There are some things that kind of come with sort of taking that whole mantle upon myself, but just in terms of I definitely feel it. I definitely feel a need, a pressure to make sure that I'm still bringing forth everything that I can for all of you, but not letting up, and we just have an awesome team. So there you go. Salim Begul, I'll ask you the price of website earn $100 per month. So a website, typically when we value a website, it's going to be somewhere around, well, anywhere from like 20 to, we've seen upwards of $50 or 50 times, a 50x multiple times monthly earnings, profits. So income minus whatever cost that you have. And so at $100 a month, typically today, this has gone up actually. It used to be that we'd see multiples in the 20s. Something in the mid 30s was pretty high. Nowadays, I'm seeing a lot that are in the 30s and even up above 40. So if you were to say maybe 35 times multiple, $100 a month is going to earn you $3,500 if you were to sell it. So there you go. Ben Swarrington asked the favorite blog post I ever wrote. That's hard to say. One that just jumped to my mind was I wrote one just about, this was way back on the Cabin Freedom website that I started, where we moved the content over to Outdoor Troop. But I wrote one about basically what to do if you're confronted with several different types of dangerous animals. So like if you run into a bear, a mountain lion, a moose, what to do in each of those situations. That one just came to my mind. Another one that I really enjoyed was one I actually wrote for a YouTube video, which was if Traegers are worth the cost. That was just mostly as an example. It's on a site where there's 2 articles, mine and then the one that was written by a beginner blogger. So that was fun. All right. Let's see. Questions always, as soon as it starts, they start to come in. So there we go. What do you think of Yoast being sold? Anytime that a bigger company picks up a smaller company, in the short term, you basically don't see anything. But oftentimes what happens is one of 2 things. One is it could just sort of, it could just kind of get sucked into that and then not get the attention that it needs, and kind of fit sort of that more corporate culture and sort of what that company's driving for. The other thing that it could do is provide it much more resources than it had to keep it far more up to date. Obviously, Rankmath in recent times has been just a better tool, in my opinion. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see them trying to sort of build up Yoast to stay at the top where it is. It's on so many websites. It's just hard to say. You might start seeing more integration between it and some of the, the hosting companies that they own, and them trying to kind of push all of those. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bluehost and HostGator starting to, just kind of natively put Yoast on your site right away, that kind of stuff. So there you go. Here we go. It's hard to know which ones to take. There's so many. Here we go. Okay, here we go. There's Dennis says, I've been a member for a while. I wrote only 12 posts, and then the pandemic hit me hard. I have 1,200 page views from the 12 posts now. Should I continue with posts now that I'm ready, or start a new site? Really, if you like the site, if you like the topic, having taken a break isn't going to hurt you. It's, on YouTube, when you create content and then just stop for a long time, you're almost starting over sometimes. But on a blog, it doesn't necessarily, that's not the case. 1,200 page views from just 12 posts. The total page views per post in the long run, I like to see is higher than that. But the fact that you're getting an average of 100 page views for every single blog post means that you did something pretty well with those first 12. So there's nothing wrong with continuing on, unless you've decided that there's just something else that you would rather do instead. Let's see. This is Yummy. I'm considering a news website. What advice would you give me to go ahead? What would you advise here in Ghana? News is tough. The hard thing with news, and why I wouldn't want to do something really news focused, is that there's nothing evergreen in news. You're constantly having to write. And so one of the things I love about building blogs is that I can write content today, and I can continue to earn an income from that content as I sleep, as I do other things, for potentially years to come, if the topic is pretty evergreen, meaning the answer to that search query doesn't change, at least not very much, over the course of months and even years. So for me, it's not something I would do, because I don't necessarily want to keep up with that constantly for years and years and years. It's almost like having a normal job. You have to keep working at it every single day. So for me, I would rather pick a topic that has a lot more evergreen content. Now, can you succeed with the news website? Absolutely. People are doing it. There's a lot of people that are making a lot of money off of both the news and just news style websites, whether that's news that's, actual factual, like reporting news, or just kind of opinion. People that do celebrity gossip and people that do any of those kinds of things. People are making a lot of money with it. It works really well, but you just have to keep at it constantly. Okay, let's see. Hey, Carl, I just saw your comment here. I appreciate that support. Carl Broadbent, he's got a channel too where he's sharing his experiences with blogging, and just really, really nice guy. We met him a few years ago and went to visit. So thanks, Carl. Jack Tyler asks, how many estimated blog posts to reach the hockey stick? The hockey stick shape is kind of going to come usually at some point if you've written, we always used as kind of a minimum 30 blog posts. We've seen it happen on a site with only like 10, and we've seen sites where it took more than 30 for that to come. Oftentimes because you have to write quite a bit just to really find those really good nuggets, those really good blog posts that are going to do really well. And so a certain number is tough to say, but also the other thing with the hockey stick is it's almost more of a time element too. So, we found when we looked, and really today we're finding this to be true over and over and over again, but even like a year and a half ago, we found when we looked back at a lot of our blog posts, when we looked at how long it took before their traffic really ticked up, it was about 8 months on average. And so we've always kind of stuck to that number, but frankly, I'm seeing it right now on sites that we're building. is sites that have been up for about 8 months, or that have content that's been up for about 8 months. That content starts to rank really well and get that higher traffic. And so it's more of a timing element. Now, the reason I say there does need to be a critical mass of content on the site, if there's too little content, it might never really take off the way that it should, because there's no foundation on the site. Now, Google is ranking individual pieces of content, not just entire sites, but your site does play a role in your authoritativeness, just how trustworthy the content on your site is likely to be. And so by having more content on your site that does pretty well, that is a clear indicator to Google, okay, their content's pretty good. And so the next piece of content will rank faster and better. Whereas if you don't have enough, it might never work. And so sites that do really well with like those 10 are usually sites where there's basically no competition. I think that's really the key. All right. What type of bear is best? Thanks, Dwight, for that question. Clearly, it is black bear. No question in my mind. I know there's debate about it, but okay. Sorry, there's the office stuff. Let's see. Dan asks, do you think sending paid traffic to a new blog will help Google understand your page performance quicker and thus get you outside the sandbox early? We have seen a boost that happens when you get large amounts of traffic to, particularly to a specific piece of content, not necessarily to a blog, like to the site overall. If you can get traffic to a specific piece of content on a large scale, that does give an indication, we believe, to Google of at least something is happening there. The way that it's worked really well for us is oftentimes when, on our own YouTube channel, if we mention one of our websites, particularly a certain piece of content on that website, and a lot of people go look at it as an example, well, suddenly it's like a backlink. And a lot of people go over there, and suddenly that piece of content ranks more quickly. So yes, it does work. Seeing that work with paid traffic, can it work? I think so, but I'd be a little bit careful in terms of how much I spend. Is there a really good ROI on that? To get an amount of traffic that would actually make a difference? If I need to get, let's say, 300 people to click over to that in a short period of time, then how much is that going to cost me? And is it worth it? Or would it be better for me to just keep creating more content and be a little bit more patient in sort of the timing? But we have seen, yes, that larger amounts of traffic in a short period of time do absolutely work. Joy Bowmick asks, how do you know if an article is a hit or a miss according to our guys' metrics? Now, after about a year, when we go through our battleship method, it's pretty, it's basically, it's just built into a formula that we've written, and it's based upon where it ranks for the primary search query and how much traffic it gets. So, if an article is getting 1,000 page views per month, I don't care where it ranks, that's a hit, and I'm probably not going to mess with it, because even if I try to tweak it to rank a little higher and get more traffic, that tweak could cause it to kind of re-enter the testing depending on how much I change in the article. So usually if it's over about 1,000 page views per month, I leave it alone. Likewise, if it's ranking really high, like 1 or even 2 in most cases, if it's getting plenty of traffic, more than 300-400 page views per month, I'm going to leave it alone. However, there are lots of times we see articles that rank 1, 2, or 3, but they're not getting even 100 page views per month of traffic. To us, that was a miss, not necessarily that the writing in the blog post was a miss, but that the topic itself didn't have the search volume. And so usually if it's a miss like that, we'll kind of abandon that search query. Now, that doesn't mean that that piece of content has to be totally abandoned. Oftentimes you could add a little bit of content to pick up other related search queries. But for the most part, if an article can't get even 50 page views a month, then I'm not touching that search query again. It just wasn't worth it. There you go. Okay. Bob Olson. So now I'm at the most recent one. I'm kind of bouncing around, scrolling up and down through these because there's a lot of questions. Bob asks, recently hired by a parcel fulfillment company to work on the website. Project 24 member, one short paragraph on each page, no rankings. I know SEO mechanics. What would you advise for a B2B type website? If it's a B2B type website, then what's the goal of the website is kind of my first big question. In a B2B situation, are we hoping that people are going to find us in search, that those other businesses are going to find us in search? I know at big companies I worked for, when we were selling B2B, usually everybody knew everybody. All the players knew each other. And so it was more about the relationship building, and the website was more of just information, just helpful. So somebody could actually come click on it and just get information, not necessarily a Google search. Now, if it's a situation where it's business to business, but it's like we're servicing potentially hundreds or thousands of small businesses, and we are trying to rely on our products or whatever this information is on ranking, then I absolutely would. I mean, one paragraph of content on a page isn't going to do a whole lot unless the search query that would lead people to it is like a branded, company specific type of search query, where somebody's looking up, for example, if I were looking up a specific iPhone model, chances are it's going to send me to Apple because Google just knows that that's who it goes to. So I would follow basically the same methodology we teach in Project 24. Any content that we want to get traffic, organic traffic to, I would absolutely be I would find a good search query that we're trying to, that people are likely to search, and that by ranking for, we would get more business for ourselves. And then I would write the content the same way that we're learning. Oftentimes that doesn't necessarily mean that a product page, just to be clear here, it doesn't necessarily mean that a product page needs a whole blog post worth of content. So if I'm listing a product on a website, I don't necessarily need to write 1,000 words about the product, but maybe in a separate section of the website, I'm writing content about specific issues that some of my potential customers have and questions that they're likely to go to Google for. And then I write an article that directs them to the products that would help solve their problem. There you go. I hope that helps. Let's see. Genocide says, will you guys ever do an over-the-shoulder full case study of creating a Project 24 site, going through all the steps? Actually, yes. That's something that was suggested in our Project 24 community just the other day, and we added it to our roadmap. It's something that's going to take time because obviously we have to go through the whole process of building out the site, but we're getting started on it. Now, that is going to all be filmed as more of a sort of like a course. It's a supplement, but it'll be its own thing within Project 24. So for Project 24 members, you'll see step by step, basically working all the way through all of the steps of the blogging course, including monetization, interlinking between your articles, obviously starting at the very beginning, selecting a topic, getting a domain name, setting up the site, search analysis, and then we're not going to do an over the shoulder of writing all of the blog posts, but we will do a bit more over the shoulder for various types of blog posts that we would include on the site. So basically by the end of that, you're going to have seen exactly how to do every aspect of building your site. Sean Arthur asks, I have a site with 13 posts, 4,000 page views. The site is going on 2 years. I'm a Project 24 member. Is it worth to continue to work on it if I'm interested in the niche? I do think so. 13 posts, 4,000 page views. Quick math, 300 page views per post. That's not bad for only having 13 posts on a site. And so the content's doing fairly well on average. And so if you're interested in the niche, like, go ahead. You have a starting point now. You have a launch pad that's ahead. And in fact, the additional content can rank faster for two reasons. One, because the site has already Google knows the site a little bit because of the content that's on it. That is obviously ranking well enough to drive 4,000 page views. And second, because you can link to the new content from your existing content. That existing content has some traffic. You link out to your new content contextually throughout the articles. And Google quickly sees that, oh, people are going to this new piece of content. Hey, maybe we should test that out a little faster. The algorithm seems to do that. It also, by interlinking, helps Google find that new content more quickly than they would just through a random crawl or even through having your sitemap. So it's going to help substantially by having that already there. Sulav Raj Tapa asks, is the travel niche good for today's time? That's an interesting one. I think that a lot of people are shying away from it, and for that reason, it could be good. People are shying away from it, obviously, because COVID has been just destroying the travel industry for a while. And so because of that, a lot of bloggers who are there are not putting in a lot of extra work right now. However, because they aren't, it's often a good time for you to get in. And so people that have been working hard on travel over the last year and a half are already starting to reap the benefits of it. Also, I think the next wave of COVID that's kind of peaking here in the US right now, I don't think we're going to see the same kinds of shutdowns. I think we're just going to see, we know what some of the precautions were that worked. We have a vaccine now. And so by doing that, we don't necessarily have to shut everything down. And so I think travel's not going to be continue to be impacted the way it was. But I think people are scared of that. So your competition may be a little bit lower right now. Okay. Hey, and everyone, I appreciate the support. I really do. Obviously, Income School is going through a little bit of a transition, but it's a transition that we're going through without dropping anything. The YouTube channel's carrying on exactly the way that it has, obviously just without Jim in the videos. But again, we have an awesome team with some really fun people that you're going to start seeing popping up in videos much more frequently. And Project 24, we have a roadmap of things that we're doing for Project 24 that just, they have me really excited. Some things that we've been just needing to get to for a long time. There you go. Alexander Rivera, question, I'm in the pet niche. Do you still think I shouldn't build links? I don't think you should build links. Pretty much almost no matter what industry you're in the sense that building links for the sake of links is, one, frowned upon by Google, but two, usually not a good use of time. Typically, for somebody to want to link to your site, you need to have quite a bit of content, and it needs to be really good content that they would want to cite as a source. And so that's what I would do, as I'd focus on content. Now, if you're at the point where you do have a lot of content, you do have some really, really good content, at that point, I would do what we refer to as just industry outreach, regular marketing. And so would I go get myself interviewed on a podcast? Yes, absolutely. That's going to give you a backlink from a podcast that's clearly just an obvious contextual link that's going to link to, it, if not your homepage, your about page, a product page, or a specific piece of content maybe. You could ask the person who runs the podcast, say, hey, you know what? I have this piece of content that would be a great resource for your listeners. And so if you want, why don't we send people to that? And they'll put that link in their show notes. You talk about it on the podcast. It's fantastic. And that is worth a lot more, by the way, than random links on random sites. And so would I go through the effort to build links? Would I send out 100 emails a day to different sites trying to get links or to write guest posts? I don't think that's generally a good use of time. I do think that once you start to have enough content to be relevant in your industry, at that point, I would start reaching out. And writing a guest post, that type of thing, is a totally valid and reasonable way to do that. And you might have to write a lot of emails to make that happen. But I certainly wouldn't do that until your website, like when somebody comes to it, it feels like, all right, this website is the kind of website that we would want to link to. We'd want to treat it as a source. All right. 50 posts, 6-month-old site, 65 organic traffic, and declining direct traffic. Is that okay? That's pretty low, but at 6 months, it's just hard to know. It's hard to know. It can take that long just for a new site to start to even gain any traction with Google. But still, with 50, is that how many posts? With that much content, I would hope to be seeing more. So at this point, I wouldn't start changing any of the content that I wrote. You haven't given it long enough to do its thing. But I maybe would start evaluating your search analysis, the topics you've chosen to write about, just the approach you're taking, and just start questioning whether or not that's the right approach, and that's going to work. So maybe give that a look over at this point. Okay. If I work in an EAT niche, like a YMYL, probably finance, insurance, and I want to blog discreetly because I still work and don't want your employer knowing, how do you build credibility? How do you build EAT when you have to be discreet about who you are? Google continues to openly state that they have no problem with using a persona, meaning not yourself, a pen name. And so basically what you could do is you could create someone who is sort of the face of the site. Using stock photos for an image of you on the website, that can be a little tricky just because it's not hard for Google and for people to identify that that's a stock photo and not a real one. But, the easy workaround there is if you've got a friend that's willing to take a photo and be the face of your website, and then you use a made up name. But then what you should do is for any credentials, for job experience, that type of stuff that you want to list on your site, be truthful. So you can say, I have this degree, I have this certificate, I've worked in the industry for 9 years, in this type of role even. That type of thing where that's all legitimate, true. It's just not your real name. And that's perfectly allowed by Google and can be just as effective as using your real name. Well, I still think it's a little more effective when you use your real name simply because then you can go get interviewed on a podcast using your real name. You could, some podcasts also record them visually, and that might be kind of tricky if you're using somebody else's face. But still, you could use your persona's name even on a podcast. Dennis asks, member of Project 24, can I join Ezoic with my 1,200 page views and 12 posts? Or should I wait to build more content and page views? You absolutely can. We worked with Ezoic in the early days. They used to require 10,000 page views every single month to be able to apply and participate in their program. And what we told them was people need to be able to earn even a few dollars much sooner than that, simply to stay motivated, to know that what they're doing is working. And so Ezoic came around and said, you know what? Yeah. We'll open it up. And our recommendation to our members is still at least get to 1,000 page views per month. If you're there, go ahead and turn on Ezoic. But really, they'll let you do it from the very beginning now. And so, yes, you can. Now, the way Ezoic works is they use an AI that basically figures out for each piece of content on your site where the best placements are to earn you the most money. They'll figure out that, this is a type of article that nobody clicks through to other articles. So since everyone's only come to the site once, maybe we'll load up this one a little bit more. There's just that work going on with their AI. And the problem with not having very many page views is it takes the AI a lot longer to gather enough data to be able to make good recommendations. And so if you started on a brand new site, you're probably just going to see a lot of ads for a while. Whereas if you had more content or more traffic on your site, it'd figure it out much more quickly. And so the number of ads would kind of go to whatever the optimal level is. So that's sort of the risk you run there. And there are people who say that when they first turn it on, they see a little bit of a dip in traffic, or at least their traffic sort of plateaus. That may be why, is because they have so little traffic that basically their viewers are seeing more ads than they should. And until Ezoic's AI kind of figures that out, it's maybe kind of stuck in that loop. I know they're continuously working to improve it and everything, but that's kind of your trade-off there. Your earnings per 1,000 page views is going to probably be like maybe $10 to $20. And so if you have 1,200 page views, you know, do you want to turn it on and earn $15 next month? Or do you want to just leave it for now? That's kind of the trade-off there. So there you go. Let's see. Scott Ski says, hi, Ricky. Nice to see you. It's nice to, I guess, read your comment. I don't really get to see you, unfortunately. I wish this was a little more two-way. Do you recommend promoting affiliate offers that are training products, or better to give your own training if you started a training website? So that's a good question. Income School has training, obviously, Project 24. I certainly wouldn't promote another blogging course on Income School. I don't think that would make a lot of sense. Even if we didn't have Project 24 yet, I probably wouldn't, if I ever intended to build my own blogging course. I wouldn't promote someone else's. That said, there are a lot of things that are sort of tangential to what we do, what we teach here at Income School, that we're not experts in. And so would it make sense for me to be an affiliate for somebody else's course on, kind of advanced WordPress skills, or another course? I could think of a handful of things where it might make sense for me to be an affiliate for somebody else's course if it's not an area where I'm ever going to be able to have a high enough level of expertise, because we're so focused on the internet marketing side, the making money from your blog and from YouTube and stuff. And so, we should continue to be experts in the things we're expert in, and potentially be just affiliates for others who are more expert in something that my audience would benefit from. So there's kind of the nuance there. So yes, you can be an affiliate for somebody else. Absolutely. Probably just not if it's specifically on the topic you intend to build a course on. All right. Caesar 94 USC says, Ezoic is saying I have scraped content even though I don't. What should I do? If they specify what content that they think is scraped, I would look at it, maybe do a search and see if there's other content that looks a lot like yours. If they're saying you have scraped content, something was flagged. And so I would view that and just see, is it really, really similar to another piece of content on the web? If so, maybe make a change. If not at all, you really haven't. I mean, you can reach out, but frankly, Ezoic, just like all the other ad networks, they don't need every website on the web. They obviously make the most money from sites that earn the most ad revenue. And so, and Ezoic is pretty good about, like, if I find somebody plagiarizing my site and I see that they're on Ezoic, I can go complain to Ezoic, and Ezoic can say, hey, you know what? It does look like you're copying Income School's website. We're not going to monetize that anymore. And it's kind of a way to help ensure that it's original content. So anyway, I'd go evaluate your content. Maybe you didn't intentionally scrape it, but it just is too similar to other content on the web. I doubt that it was just flagged randomly, accidentally. So again, not at all an accusation, but rather just the way that it is. Go check your content. If you find out somebody else is scraping yours, then maybe that's what you tell them is, it looks like this person's scraping mine, but look, I wrote it first. Sonia XX says, how much do you expect to earn from 1,000 page views from Ezoic? This one with any ad network just seems to vary a lot within a niche. We did do a survey. There's a YouTube video on our channel about it. We did a survey a little while back of both Project 24 sites, as well as some of you from the YouTube channel participated, asking, how much you were earning, what your traffic was, what ad net you were worth, etc. What we found was, on average, Ezoic sites were earning, I think it was just a little over $20 per 1,000 page views. Now, okay, I'm sorry, I should clarify. For sites that were likely have been accepted by Mediavine, based upon Mediavine's criteria. So they would have had to have had at least 50,000 page views a month. When we included all sites in that, I think the number was around 15. It might have been $12 to $15. It's lower. And that makes sense because when they include a lot smaller sites and sites where the traffic is not primarily, US traffic. There's one thing I really like with Ezoic is they'll work with you even if your traffic is not all in the US. The Mediavine and the AdThrive type ad networks, they have a much more hands-on approach. It's really great. I've worked with both of them. I think they're great, but you have to have more traffic and you have to have more US-based traffic, just the way that it is. And because of the way their business model works, they're just way more selective who they let in. So there you go. Ezoic's going to be more helpful if you have non-US based traffic or if your site's kind of in the earlier days. So there you go. It seems to be basically on par with Mediavine and AdThrive at the larger sizes of websites. But for just the average website, $12 to $15. Digging up 1800. I have a history blog and find it hard to fit the how-to questions to my content. People want stories from history. How do I push traffic to my site? That's a good one. Really, whatever it comes down to, it doesn't have to be how-to, but it has to be an actual search query, meaning something that people would type into Google. If I create a history-based website, but the only search query is if somebody's searching that story from history or that person from history, if that person isn't searched very much, then you're not going to get very much traffic organically to that content, just how it is. So you do need to try to go through that search analysis process. It doesn't have to be how-to. People search all sorts of stuff on the web, but how-to does typically work very well, but not always. Aaron says, I don't think this is live. Is this a pre-recording? No, Aaron. It is absolutely live. Emmanuel says, will Acabado still be around in the unforeseeable future? Well, it's hard to know in the unforeseeable future, but the plan for the foreseeable future, at least, is that yes, Acabado is around. Acabado, I'm continuing to update it. I'm working on an update right now to specifically to take advantage of more of what WordPress 5.8 brings into play. Also, I know it's been mentioned even in this chat, but there are a few schema errors that Acabado's had for a while. We're working on fixing those. And then just making sure that, anytime I find something that's not just nailing it with Core Web Vitals, we're making sure that we improve that. But this update's a little bit bigger because we're kind of holistically looking at it from the standpoint of WordPress 5.8. On the developer side, there were some new additions that could potentially make the theme run better. So we're looking at that. And there's gonna be a lot of testing involved to make sure that it's working right when we're all done. But there you go. It is around and will continue to be around. Let's see. Evan Stark, hey Ricky, what's your opinion on including other languages within blog posts? For example, if I write a blog about life in Japan, will it hurt my SEO to include the occasional Japanese word? No. Google's looking at the pieces of content kind of holistically. And so if the content is answering that question and it's about Japanese stuff and you're throwing in a Japanese word, maybe it's just for context, maybe it's just for interest, whatever it is, that doesn't prevent the other content around it from still ranking very well. So, for example, within a blog post, every paragraph at this point, like every piece of that article now is kind of being indexed individually by Google. And so even within a paragraph, if you use a Japanese word, but holistically that paragraph is covering this piece of information, there's not a problem there. It's not going to hurt your SEO. Aaron says, if I start a blog and see Aaron the doubter, you're asking me a question now? I'm just kidding. Now you know for sure that I'm here live. If I start a blog and pump fitness content out for a month, 30 plus posts, could I make money within that month? Could you? Yes. Typically though, unless you have, sorry, I'm not trying to call you out, Aaron. No, if you have something that points to the blog, right? If you had a YouTube channel or if you had some social media already, Or even if you went out to, a Facebook group that you participate in and posted one of your blog posts there and were to get some early traffic, that could help pick up your traffic, even organic traffic, a little bit more quickly. Could you make some money in the first month? Yes. Would it be very much? No, it really wouldn't. Now, we have seen people who within 6 months were making thousands of dollars a month from their blog. It's well monetized. They did great search analysis, and that's just how it is. But typically, it's going to take 3 to 6 months before you're really earning much of anything. But usually, it's after that because your traffic is picking up, you can start earning much more. All right. Can I monetize a blog in the literature niche other than ads? Yeah, I mean, absolutely, you can. Looking for monetization opportunities oftentimes feels like we just think of the obvious things, right? You're in the literature niche, like, yeah, you could add links to the books that you talk about on Amazon. Now, that's not going to earn you a lot. Books don't cost very much. But linking to them on Amazon and Audible, maybe you would earn some there. But you could also think about other things. For example, could you potentially make an info product that's about literature? It's about literature, the topic of literature. That maybe is an info product about, analyzing literature from like a professor would. Could you create an info product about writing literature? Could you be an affiliate for somebody else's course on writing literature? Absolutely. So just don't let yourself kind of get stuck in the mindset that, oh, there's nothing for me here. There's a lot of people who've created info products, even ebooks and stuff on ClickBank that you can be an affiliate for. Absolutely. So I would go that route. Really just keep your mind open as to what you could possibly do. There you go. Hey, Aaron, I'm glad you're not mad at me. Let's see. How do you make money with just page views? It's website homepage or blog post views. Can you elaborate? It's both. Really, blog post views are usually going to make a lot more than your homepage. You make money from page views when you have ads on your site that people see. You also make money from page views when some of the people that come to see and read your article click on an affiliate link or buy a product or any number. Those are kind of the main things that we're doing here is linking to affiliate products, maybe even selling them an informational or even a physical product, and then showing them ads. So any number of those things are going to earn you money. So if I get 1,000 page views come onto my site, on average, I might earn, $15 from Ezoic ads, but I might earn another $15 because on average, I earn about $15 per 1,000 page views because some of those people click on an affiliate link and then go buy a product from Amazon or from some other company. So just having page views on the site really just earns me money from ads. But if I do a good job of selling an affiliate product or something like that, then I can make much more than that. And it comes out to an average of a certain number of dollars per 1,000 page views. Let's see. Is starting a YMYL site a bad idea? No, especially if you have a particular skill set or knowledge base. If you have a credential in that industry, then it's actually kind of good for you because you're competing with other bloggers who don't. But for most of us, it's kind of an uphill battle. It's more work. Google's going to scrutinize the content a lot more. It might take longer to rank, even if you do have that sort of credential. You're going to have to build that authoritativeness, probably do more outreach, like I've been talking about in this live, than you would do if you were to pick something that didn't sort of require that sort of expertise, that wasn't YMYL. So it's harder. I have complete confidence in my ability to do that. But that's because I've been building websites for a long time and I've built a lot of successful websites. So I wouldn't be worried about it. Most people who haven't done this a lot are going to be second guessing themselves kind of every step of the way until they start seeing like the real success come in, the dollars that they're earning. And so if that's going to be you, then I wouldn't. I would probably steer away from that. Just you're more likely to give up because you're not going to see those results, at least not very quickly. Natalie Lane says, trying to get an order in with Content Warrior, but the response post hasn't been available for a while. You know when I'll be able to put an order in? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. We're ramping up the number of writers that we have. Right now in particular is kind of a slower time. We use a lot of college students as a lot of our writers, and we're sort of right in a space of time between when students are in school. So our team is a little smaller right now than usual, but starting in the fall, we expect to build it up even bigger than it's ever been, because we've opened a second office in another area, and potentially plan to have a lot more writers, probably about double what we had when we first started. But the reality is every time we open it up, it's usually within minutes that it's sold out again. And then usually a few days later, we open up more and it gets sold out. Now, the reason that we do that is we never want to get in a situation where somebody puts in an order for content and it's months before they get their content back. And so we'll only take the amount that we can actually do within a 2-week time frame, and usually it's about more like 1 week for that turnaround. And so in order to sort of have that level of quality, but also of turnaround of experience for you, we just won't take your order if we couldn't get it done in a quick time frame. So what that means is check back frequently. We don't post more inventory at a specific time or day, because that would then lead to, whoever's fastest with the mouse. It's more like if you check back frequently, then whoever kind of gets lucky and happens to be there when it opens up. Okay. Autism, some assembly required says, what signs do you look for to decide when to switch from going after low competition to after high competition articles? Yeah, what I would say is on any site, one, when I've kind of covered the low competition topics, like in my search analysis, I've written the ones that I identified. I will throw in some higher competition ones as I go. Maybe not in my first 20 or 30 blog posts, but as I go, I will start to sprinkle them in. One, because it helps to sort of fill out the content on the site. If all of the content on your site is kind of superficial, low competition stuff, then somebody looking through your site, including a search engine looking through your site, might feel like it's only surface deep. And so I'm going to sprinkle some of that in. And once I see that some of that's starting to rank well, then I get a really good indication that I can pretty much go after anything. Not necessarily the top keywords against like a behemoth of a site, depending on what niche you're in. But, again, I can pretty much take any topic and I can write an article that's going to do well. And if I don't end up beating the behemoth, maybe I end up ranking number 3. But if it's a big enough topic, that still might be worth a ton of traffic. So really that's it. I don't make a full switch, probably ever, because even when I'm more authoritative, I'm still going to identify some of the lower competition topics and just say, yeah, sure, I'll write that because I'll probably rank for it tomorrow. But I would sort of shift how much of my content is low competition versus high. This is something I'll point out. If you have a YouTube channel, once you start to get a following and you start having people that watch like every single video, at that point, it's really hard to put out kind of low competition, like what you would consider a low competition response post, to put out a video on that same topic, because it's probably not going to be very applicable for 98% of your audience. And so the people that would normally watch your videos see that video topic and say, oh, that's not for me. And so then you don't get views on that video. And there's kind of a momentum thing with YouTube. With blogging, that's not really a thing. So I can continue to put out very specific low competition articles and high competition articles perpetually, forever. without it hurting my site, because nobody's subscribing to the blog to come back every day to see what article I wrote. It's just not a thing, whereas with YouTube, it is. What are great options, or what other great options are there? This is Fuel the Dream asking. Besides WordPress, is Wix good for blogging business? Wix, any of those are going to work for a blogging business. They're going to give you a lot less flexibility in terms of your site functionality. For most people starting a blog, they're going to think, WordPress feels complicated. It's a hard thing to learn. Wix looks easy. I just drag and drop, and then I write blog posts. Wix isn't going to prevent your blog posts from ranking in Google. That's not how it works. But WordPress is going to give you more functionality. So in the long term, if you ever wanted to do something on your site that Wix doesn't have a built-in plugin for, you're kind of out in the cold. Whereas with WordPress, you can literally do anything. If there's not an existing plugin for it, okay, fine, we'll get one made, and it won't cost very much because WordPress is built. It's designed to be built on. And then, there's some other reasons. These big ad networks, again, a lot of them can work with some of these other sites, but they do really, 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 really well with WordPress. And so I would point anybody toward WordPress to build their blog, just because today you might be thinking, I'm just building a simple blog, but you don't know once it starts to succeed, you don't know what you're going to want it to be in the long run. And I just assume build it on WordPress for that reason. Let's see here. I'm going to be wrapping up here in just a couple minutes, but here we go. Which is better, Yoast or Rankmath or something else? I know Yoast has added some more features recently that they didn't have before, so I can't say specifically. I can't speak to the latest versions of Yoast. What I do know is when I looked at Rankmath, I was like, this is better. Both of them are giving you tools that are highlighting things that are not really that important from an SEO standpoint. They're running some tests on your content that are, if you spend a lot of time worried about that, you're wasting time. It's not going to do anything for your SEO. What I do like that Rankmath has, Rankmath's interface for schema is really good. And if you're in any sort of an industry that, heavily uses schema, I would absolutely be marking up your content with schema markup. And Rankmath has a really good interface for that. So I like that. Here we go. Martine says, "Hi, Ricky. Great to see you live. Thanks." Let's just scroll down. What do you think about bilingual blogs? So he says, I have a 5-month-old blog with 1,161 page views in the past 30 days and 82 articles, 41 in each of the 2 languages. I think a bilingual blog is a perfectly great idea. I would keep in mind kind of sort of who the audience is. If it's a content that's written to a worldwide audience and you want to cover 2 big languages, that's fine. But we talked a little bit earlier how if your blog is kind of catered to attract US traffic, as well as worldwide, but US also, you're going to make more money from ads, from affiliate, etc. And so I guess what I'm saying is you might be putting a lot of work into something that might not have as much payoff as you think it would. You would think, I'm just going to get a bunch more traffic because now I'm in 2 big languages. And that may be true, but that other traffic might not earn you as much. So, it's maybe that trade-off. How much time is it taking you to add the second language? But I don't think it's going to hurt anything. And frankly, it might be really, really beneficial to have both of those languages, depending on what the topic is and who your target audience is. So, if it makes sense for you, absolutely go for it. I don't have a problem with it and think it could be really good for you. It could just end up being a lot more work than you think, especially with like affiliate offers. There may be some affiliate offers that are more country specific and now all of a sudden you're realizing I wrote this piece of content in both languages, but in this other language, it's actually ends up being catered for a totally different group, a totally different country. And so now I have to go find maybe a separate affiliate program because the one I linked to doesn't make any sense. So just know that it's going to be a fair amount of work to do both languages. But if you've got that down, absolutely. I think that's great. Let's see. Jordan Walker says, I have a site with 47 posts. It's 8 months old. Traffic's about 70 to 90 page views a day. Am I on the right, going in the right direction? Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. 8 months old. I would maybe, well, I guess it depends how old the content is. So if you got 47 posts that are all about 8 months old, I would be hoping to see more by now. But if you wrote, 15 of those in the first month, and maybe 15, 10 in the second month, and then the rest over time since then, I think you're actually doing really good. So just because, again, how long it takes sometimes for that new content to start to rank. So there you go. It's hard to know for sure how you're doing. Really, if you dive into the analytics, though, and look at that older content and see, any content that's at about 8 months old, how many page views per month is it getting? If it's doing over 100 for your oldest content on your site, especially because it was the first content on your site, I'd say that piece of content is doing pretty well. Again, our internal metric for what's good is I want to see every article. I like to see most articles doing 500 page views per month. We like to average closer to 1,000, but most articles don't do 1,000. The reason we get the 1,000 average is because we have some pieces of content that do way more. And usually those pieces of content are ranking for multiple different search queries. And so that's usually going to come with a bit more time and as more of that content ranks. So anyway, if you're at above 100 on several articles that are at about 8 months old, I'd feel pretty good about where you're going. And I would start learning from that. The content that's doing better, like why did it do better? And see what you can learn from there. All right. I'm going to take a couple more. I can never end these things because I never want to cut you guys off. Let's see. Autism Some Assembly Required says, I'd love for you to do some videos on how you use Google Analytics and Console. Yeah, I think I would like to do more of that. Now, if those of you who don't know about it, we do have a channel now called Income School Tutorials. It started out as kind of a WordPress-based YouTube channel, and now we're using that more to show more of kind of the how-to. And so I would like to make some of those kind of videos. They'll probably end up on that channel. So if you're interested in some of that how-to content, make sure you go check that one out. Is buying an expired domain for a new site worth it? It's not something I usually think about or worry that much about. If I go looking specifically for expired domains, I'm going to feel more restricted on what the domain is. And without really knowing the history of the domain, it can be a little bit of a gamble as to whether or not it's going to really benefit you or not. It can give you a nice little benefit, at least in the beginning. Google's smart. The search engines are smart. They're going to rank your content, but what it might do is get you seen faster. Maybe get some points for authority in the very beginning, but eventually the site's going to level out to where it should be anyway. And so for me, it's more important to me to have a domain name that I like, that I feel like has kind of a brandable name. I don't worry about having exact match domain names. That's not really an important thing anymore. But I do try to find a domain that fits the niche, but is catchy enough that if I ever wanted to build it into a more authoritative site, build a brand around a YouTube channel, or sell it to someone who wants to do that, it could be done. So that's kind of more what I think about. Cindy says, month 7 traffic, 600 page views per month. EPMV, first 3 days after setup shows 250. Is that normal? Yes. It's normal to see a pretty low EPMV at the very beginning. There's a lot of testing. There's a lot going on at the very beginning. Now, something else, depending upon sort of, how you did with Ezoic starting up, You may find that maybe you haven't set up as many ad placements or all the right ad placements that you should have. And so I would definitely take a look at your ad placements and just make sure that you've got plenty of them on there. With Ezoic, when you put in an ad placement somewhere, it doesn't mean they're always going to show an ad there. And so you actually end up putting in more placements than you would actually want ads in the content typically. And so that's something that I think people miss. But Ezoic has their course that they have for new people that sign up. I would make sure that you have watched through that content and just get the ad placements part really, really down. But other than that, yes, it's actually very normal to have a low EPMV in the very beginning. Nate Grundam, you just asked, what's my other channel called? It's just Income School Tutorials. We also have Income School Vlogs that doesn't have much on it yet. Jim did a house tour that's kind of fun, but we're going to start using that too to show some more of kind of the fun things, the behind the scenes things, stuff we're working on. Again, our goal here, I mentioned earlier that on YouTube, if you make content that's not applicable to most of your audience, it doesn't do very well, and it can kind of slow down the momentum of your channel. And so what we're doing, and a lot of other YouTubers are doing, is when we do have some of that kind of content we want to put out there, you just make a separate channel and you link out to it. So that's what those are. There you go. Man, so many good questions, guys. Unique Palmer is how to draw a good niche, because Google shows YouTube videos on almost basically the whole page for this. Think about that. Why would that be? If I'm looking for how to draw, it's a highly visual topic. And so reading an article about drawing things is going to be tough. Now, if I'm looking for how to draw a dragon, I'm probably going to want to watch a video. It might be nice for somebody that's a YouTuber to have a supplemental article that goes with it so that I can refer back to it. It would also be nice to have, information on a website just about materials that I should be using, what kind of paper to buy. There's not a ton of that, but there's enough in drawing. It'd be nice to have that, right? But I think the YouTube channel to go with it is key. And I think that's actually the primary channel, rather than the blog being sort of the primary. The blog is more supplement to that. And so if I were doing how to draw, that's the direction I would go. I would create a YouTube channel, not a blog. Okay. It's hard it's always hard to pick a last question. When are you going to start YouTube school? There you go. There's a good one. Actually, if you don't know about it, there's a YouTube channel called Channel Makers. Channel Makers is run by Nate. Nate is part of our team. Nate, we work together. So he's got an awesome YouTube channel. I watch it to learn how to get better at YouTube. Frankly, he's just figuring stuff out. Now, a lot of what was started in there and really what we have in Project 24 or had in the beginning was based upon mine and Jim's experience. Obviously, we've been doing YouTube for a long time, built a few channels, including this one. And so that was kind of the basis for it. But Nate then took all of that and has just built on it so much and learning so many cool things. So that's a YouTube channel. And then in Project 24, we do have the blogging course, which is kind of the main, it replaced the 60 steps. It's not so much 60 steps anymore. It's just like a full, just like a associate's degree in blogging. But we also have the YouTube course, and that YouTube course is about to get a major upgrade in the sense that we're taking what we have and building an awesome system around it. So that's coming out hopefully in the next few months. Anyway, hard at work on that, working closely with Nate. He's the primary driver behind it. So there you go. We have YouTube School. Can you remove Google Fonts in Acabado? Yes, it'll just stick with the default font. If you have a different font plugin that you like better than Google Fonts, it will probably work. If it doesn't, you could just message our support, reach out to us, and we'll, in fact, in the Acabado support area, if you're a member of Acabado, you can get to a place where you can submit bugs and stuff. Let us know if it's not working for you. All right, I got a super chat here from Cooper Time. I'm having a hard time finding a poll plugin that works with Acabado. Any suggestions? I'm curious which ones you've tried, but I don't have a specific one that I've tested out specifically in Acabado. So you ask that question, I will find a good one for you. So there you go, Cooper Time. I will find that. I will find a good plugin that works. Again, I'm curious which ones you've tried. It may just be that we just need to make one more, like take a good one and make it more compatible with Acabado, which is something we could absolutely do. All right. I think we're going to end it on that one. I could just go on and on and on here. I just love talking to you guys. YouTube Lives are going to become a much more common thing on this channel. And yes, Genocide, I will, in the Acabado, so if you're an Acabado user and you go to Income School, there's in the menu, you can click on Acabado and there's a whole support area. Maybe what I could do is have an article there. There's a knowledge base, which basically you type in questions and it pulls up short articles to solve your problem. I could potentially do one for maybe plugins and things that we recommend specifically that work well with Acabado. I think that would be a great resource to add. I don't know how quickly I'll get that done, but I think that would be a good thing to add. So I will do that. But yeah, so there you go. YouTube Lives are going to become a much more common thing on this channel. Probably going to do at least a couple every single month going forward, just because I want to interact with you guys all the time. This is a lot of fun. So, but I'm going to call it for today. Thanks everybody for joining me. And we'll see you guys next time.